The film opens with the unnamed narrator, a white-collar worker who is trapped in a cycle of monotony and dissatisfaction. His life is a series of predictable events, waking up to his alarm, going to work, eating microwave dinners, and trying to numb his feelings through mindless shopping. He works for a car company, overseeing recalls, but the job does little to fulfill him. More than anything, he struggles with insomnia, lying awake at night in a state of restless frustration. The insomnia begins to consume him, and his mental and emotional state deteriorates. In an effort to cope with his crippling insomnia, the narrator attends support groups for a variety of ailments. He pretends to suffer from conditions like cancer and testicular cancer, finding a perverse sense of relief in the emotional pain of others. The group settings offer him some comfort, but it's a temporary escape. The narrator longs for something real, something more than the life he's leading. One day, during a business trip, he meets Tyler Durden, a charismatic soap salesman who challenges everything the narrator believes. Tyler is confident, free-spirited, and unconcerned with the superficial aspects of modern life. He speaks about rejecting the societal norms that bind people to the consumerist machine, and the narrator is immediately intrigued by his unorthodox views. Soon after meeting Tyler, the narrator's life is upended when his apartment is destroyed in an explosion, an event that leaves him homeless. With nowhere to go, he reaches out to Tyler, and the two men strike up a friendship. Tyler invites the narrator to stay with him in a dilapidated house on the outskirts of town, and it's here that their radical ideas begin to take shape. Tyler proposes an idea that seems outrageous at first: Fight Club. The concept is simple. Men gather in secret to fight each other, not for money or fame, but to release their pent-up frustrations and feel something real. The first rule of Fight Club is that no one talks about Fight Club. The second rule is that no one talks about Fight Club. The fights are raw and violent, offering a release from the emptiness that many of these men feel in their lives. As Fight Club grows, so does its influence. What starts as a small group of men meeting in basements quickly turns into a nationwide phenomenon. Men from all walks of life join the club, all searching for a way to reclaim their masculinity and break free from the shackles of modern society. Tyler's philosophy begins to take root, and Fight Club becomes a symbol of rebellion. It's not just about fighting anymore, it's about rejecting the system, rejecting consumerism, and rejecting the false ideals that define men in the modern world. However, Tyler has bigger plans in mind. He introduces the narrator to Project Mayhem, a more radical offshoot of Fight Club. Project Mayhem's goal is to create chaos on a much larger scale, to disrupt the very foundations of society. Members of Project Mayhem engage in increasingly violent and dangerous acts, including bombing buildings and sabotaging businesses. Tyler's message of anarchy and destruction is clear. To truly be free, society must be torn down and rebuilt from the ground up. As Tyler's influence grows, the narrator becomes more entangled in the madness. He participates in increasingly reckless activities, losing himself in the chaos. He begins to feel a strange connection with Tyler, almost as if Tyler is the person he's always wanted to be: fearless, strong, and free. Yet something doesn't feel right. The narrator starts to notice inconsistencies in Tyler's behavior. Tyler begins to act in ways that don't add up, and the narrator's own mental state begins to deteriorate. In a moment of clarity, the narrator realizes the shocking truth. Tyler Durden isn't real. Tyler is a figment of his imagination, a product of his fractured mind. Tyler represents the narrator's darker impulses, the part of him that is willing to embrace violence, chaos, and anarchy in order to break free from the constraints of society. Tyler is the embodiment of the narrator's own desires that he has repressed for years. The realization comes as a crushing blow. The narrator is horrified to learn that everything that has happened, the creation of Fight Club, the rise of Project Mayhem, and the escalating violence, has all been a manifestation of his own mind. Tyler's radical actions are the result of the narrator's own internal battle with his identity and his place in the world. As the truth sinks in, the narrator becomes desperate to stop Tyler's plans. Project Mayhem is on the verge of executing its final, catastrophic act, blowing up several buildings and plunging the economy into chaos. The narrator realizes that the only way to stop Tyler is to confront him head-on. The climax of the film is a dramatic confrontation between the narrator and Tyler, in which the narrator tries to destroy the part of himself that has caused so much destruction. The two men fight in a final showdown, with the narrator battling his alter ego for control of his own fate. In an act of self-destruction, the narrator shoots himself in the mouth, believing that this will rid him of Tyler once and for all. The shot wounds him, but it also symbolically kills off his darker side. Tyler's influence over him is finally severed. As the narrator collapses, bleeding, he confronts the reality that he is now free from Tyler's control, but at great cost. His self-inflicted wound has forced him to confront the violence and chaos within himself, and he is now faced with the aftermath of his actions. In the film's final moments, the narrator regains some semblance of clarity. He had to stop the final phase of Project Mayhem, preventing the destruction of the buildings. However, the damage has already been done. Tyler's legacy, anarchy, violence, and rebellion lives on, and the narrator is left to deal with the consequences of his own actions. The film ends with the narrator reaching out to Marla, a woman with whom he had a tumultuous relationship. Marla had been an integral part of the story, serving as a grounding force for the narrator, and now, in the aftermath of the chaos, the two of them stand together. Holding hands, they walk through a city that has been ravaged by the violence that Tyler instigated. As explosions rock the buildings around them, the narrator's future is uncertain. Will he be able to rebuild his life, or will Tyler's influence continue to haunt him? The final scene leaves this question unanswered, but the narrator has taken the first step toward healing. He has freed himself from the chaos within, and with Marla by his side, there's a glimmer of hope for the future.